And it turned out pretty quickly because if you're ever in a public affairs sort of a setup, it turned out pretty quickly that it was us because Dan Rather comes on the TV with a big red arrow pointing to Fort Stewart, Georgia, and says, "We've just learned that the invasion was launched from Fort Stewart, Georgia." I'm like, oh crap, that's every phone in the place went off. And we spent the next 3 weeks dealing with the national media. At that point, the Rangers finally came home. They were the ones who had invaded Grenada along with some other units. And this is a photo of a Ranger who had just come from combat, meeting his son, his child, I should say, for the first time. The mother went into labor when she realized he was in combat. And so, yeah, that's always been always loved that photo. So, and that ran on the front of.
Which camera did you take that one on?
That was the MX with a SMC Pentax 200mm f4. And I can say with confidence Tri-X film because I shot everything on Tri-X film. So it was always, the answer was always Tri-X. So here's this is fun. This is a Japanese festival. So you have people in Americans in civilian clothes wandered in with people dressed as 19th century samurai. They're recreating the Commodore Perry and the Black Ships coming to the Philippines. I'm sorry, Philippines coming to Japan. Commodore Perry and his men were not dressed like this. No bougie shorts or any of that stuff there. So anyway, so yeah, I mean, I was in Tokyo, and I could spend a month's salary. I was single. I could spend a month's salary and buy a 135 f1.8. So I did, and so I got that. I've got the lens next to the Pentax there. That is one of the great things about Pentax, again, is that any Pentax lens from any era fits on any Pentax camera. So that's the one next to it is the 50 f1.2 that came out with the original K-series cameras about a decade before the LXs. And I use it fairly frequently. I use that and the 135 on the Pentax monochrome. So I want to talk a little bit more about the Pentaxes I brought here to show you. This is the LX that's the other one. This is one that I used to shoot 2 LXs. This one had the 135 1.8 on it. The other, I'm a wide angle guy, and so my absolute favorite lens, the one that I shot probably 2/3 of all have something between 6,000 and 8,000 published photos. And the one I shot, I'd say 2/3 of them on, was the other LX and the SMC Pentax 20mm f4. That just, I just had that thing tailored for that lens. I switched out the focusing screen with a grid screen because 20mm is pretty wide, and so you wanted to make sure all your lines were parallel and you weren't making somebody's head twice the size it needed to be. The reason I was looking at the corner of it there is that LX, to show you how rugged those cameras were, I was running down a street in Tokyo chasing, I'm still not making this up, 500 identically dressed Japanese Elvises, and tripped. And I grabbed the LX with the 135 and held that up because that hit the pavement. And on the other side, I used to carry the 2 LXs loaded with Tri-X and the MX loaded with Ektachrome. Not Kodachrome, because for news you needed to be able to process it the same day, which meant E6. You couldn't, Kodachrome was send it out, get something in a week or two. So I had an 80 to 200 zoom on the MX loaded with Ektachrome, and I stumbled, and the other LX with the 20mm bounced off the sidewalk. I caught it on the bounce and finished the shoot. The camera still has the dent in it. It's never been into for cleaning or adjustment. It didn't bother it. I mean, the LXs and the MXs, just absolute tanks. Indestructible cameras and tremendous pieces of equipment. Here's my daily. Again, I could have brought, a completely different set of cameras, this many, and still not emptied out the cabinets at home. But I thought it'd be interesting to show you my daily drivers now. So two more unique Pentax cameras. You know, there's nothing like the 6.7. There's nothing like the Auto 110. This is the Pentax K33 monochrome. It's the only monochrome DSLR ever made. The only one commercially available. There are two other monochrome cameras that you can buy commercially. The Leica Q2 monochrome is 3 times as much as this, and the Leica M11 monochrome is 5 times as much as this. You can buy a Pentax K33 monochrome and a full set of limited lenses and still have enough for another camera for the price of just a Leica Q3 monochrome. I mean, it's crazy. And this is so that's the latest and greatest Pentax digital camera. And this is the latest and greatest Pentax camera of all. This is film. This is the Pentax 17 half frame camera, which I bought from Mr. Todd over there.
Yay.
So yeah, thank you, Don's. Here's the thing, I just couldn't shoot digital cameras anymore after I got the monochrome. The monochrome is effectively an analog camera. That is, light falls on a pixel and the camera records it, and that's it. If you take the identical censored K33, it has a Bayer array in front of it, and that is each group of 4 pixels has 2 green, 1 red, and 1 blue pixel. It records that in the raw file, and then it's put through a computer process. It's an algorithm called a de-Bayerization process, where it tries to figure out what colors could have been coming in to make that particular set of values that were recorded by the green, red, and blue lenses on top of the array. So every Digicam photo you've ever seen is a product of the algorithm. That's why you get different results if you use Adobe Camera Raw or Raw Therapy. They all have slightly different de-Bayerization routines. And there's 2 things. One is you're getting their algorithm's values, not what was actually there. And the second thing is you lose detail. It's the nature of what it does. It's writing new pixels and you're losing some of the detail that was there. The K33 monochrome, on the other hand, works exactly the same as Tri-X, which I have known and loved for these many decades. Light falls on a pixel, it records how much, or in Tri-X's case, the silver halides react to the amount of light that falls, and that's it. That's it. What you see is what you get. And what's really amazing is when you look at identical images shot with the same lenses from a K3 and a K33 and a K33 monochrome at any sort of higher ISOs. The difference is visible at like 3,000 to 5,000 ISO, and you can't unsee it once it gets above that. Now, I know what everyone thinks about it when I say that immediately, which is, I don't shoot at 3,000 ISO. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. If you've got your ISO set to 200 and you've got both highlights and dark shadows in that image, okay, parts of that image are what? 8, 10, 12, 14 stops? Guess what that is? That means I have infinite detail in my shadows, and someone with a K33 does not. That means I have infinite detail and can effectively re-expose anything. About the only thing that you can do to a K33 monochrome is the same thing about the only thing you can do to Tri-X, which is to blow out highlights. Once it's gone to white, there's nothing there. So, but if you don't blow out the highlights, there's simply endless detail in the monochrome images. And I strongly recommend, if you are a black and white person, well, I strongly recommend that if you are broke, don't. But if you love monochrome, do get your hands on one for a day and take a few shots and compare them with what you can do. You'll be shocked. And so what happened for me was, once I could see the difference, I just couldn't live with any of the digital stuff anymore, whether from my Pentax K70 or my 42 megapixel Sony A7R2, or from my adorable but still digital Olympus Pen F. I just, couldn't get past it. And so I went back to analog completely. So now that's my daily drivers. I shoot black and white with the monochrome, and I shoot color with Ektachrome 100 loaded into the Pentax 17. So that's where we are. Oh, and I write and review and write about crazy people with walls of film for for Pentax forums. So
what was the biggest surprise about the 17 that you had, the Pentax 17?
the lens. The lens is stupid good. I just assumed, when you shoot with the Auto 110 Super, with Kodachrome and the 70, with the best lens and the best film, it did some amazing things. But with regular film and the smaller lenses, it's not really great. And I just assumed that between half frame and a 3-element air gapped lens, and 3 elements and 3 groups, you'd be in the same sort of situation. I assumed it would be okay, but I assumed it would be kind of like the Kodak Ektar half frame, nice for snapshots. There's nothing wrong with a $50 camera that takes nice snapshots, nothing at all. But that's not for me, it's not really, doesn't really interest me. And then I took this thing out, got some film from Todd, and started shooting it. And oh my goodness, this thing with the right film and enough light, it likes light. Okay, it's not enthused about faster films. It wants a slower film. But on the other hand, I don't know if you saw the video review of the Pentax 17 I did, but I was shooting handheld in the last rays of twilight, not sunset, but an hour later, the last rays of twilight, and that thing held up. Here, hang on a second here. Let me show you. Now that I have all the things.
We're visual people. We have to see things.
Yeah. Well, like I said in the review too, it's I like to let the camera talk for itself.
Yeah, I was blown away by the slide film that you ran through it.
There it is. Yeah, well, it was tips. Let's see if it'll. Ooh, there's some. I don't think it has a tip filter in here. I just don't want to resolve it. They're a lot sharper in there. Sorry, I'm there we go. This is handheld. This is handheld of how high is that tower? It's got to be 100 feet high, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
From the street, handheld. Okay, so with ISO 100 film, this is a locomotive lit with a flash. Even later, I mean, if you look to the side, this is pitch pitch dark night here, and yet this tiny little flash is giving you. That's a large C here. But detail on a locomotive. You know, again, at ISO 100, it's ridiculous.
It's so strange. It looks like an outline of a person from here.
Yeah, and but again, I haven't done anything to, you know, I've got the tips from the scans here. I could do a lot with this if I wanted to, but I'm just kind of shocked that the camera got anything. I mean, if you would have been willing to bet dinner beforehand, if you could take a photo of a locomotive in pitch dark with this little thing, I'd have bet you 3 dinners that it wasn't going to happen.
What was that, 200 ISOs?
ISO 100. This is Panther Air, which is reloaded Kodak aerial film.
Is that night?
Yes. This is look at this. There's
Steady
stars.
hand, that's all I can tell you. You want to propping that up against something?
And
Just
No.
holding it in tight, right?
Yeah, well, that and I do the old, you know, I'm an old soldier, you know, and you're taught when you shoot a rifle, you put your hand through the strap and you wind it around, you pull it tight, and now you've got a grip, and so that's, you know, that's the way I shoot, like that with this locked up. So
It's pretty amazing.
you know. Yeah, it's really, you know, I was thinking about getting one. Just, I mean, it's $500, which is not that much for a good camera these days. But when Ricoh Imaging America sent me a camera to try, and I started shooting the ectochrome and stuff on it, it's just amazing. I was just so amazed with it.
I like the picture of the guy on the park bench.
That's what I was going to get.
Statue, yeah.
That's what I was going to get.
Yeah, that one.
Well, look at the color and the punch in it. Look at the detail. Again, this is just me walking down the street handheld. I'm not doing any of the things that you should do to test a camera, because I don't believe it. I honestly don't. I don't. You know, I believe if you're going to test a camera for people to go out and shoot, you should go out and shoot. I could do this with a test bed. Well, nobody does that. That's great if you're going to have a camera mounted on a tripod taking pictures of targets. But if you're going to go out with controlled light, if we're going to go out in the real world, let's see how it works in the real world. Well, I'm wandering through things here.
So you decided that you're really going to get that camera as you took it, or after you got the photos back?
After the ectochromes came back.
Yeah.
After the ectochromes came back, I was just like,
Gotta have it.
yeah.
How many of your photos were like using the flash, or was it just like?
It was set on auto, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just use it on auto. This is the Pentax K33 monochrome. You remember what I was saying about the detail?
Yeah.
Look in the crevices. Look in that crevice. Yes, I understand you're not going to set your ISO to 20,000, but look at the detail in there. That's what you're getting with the monochrome. That is just amazing. I think, anyway. I think what Pentax has done with Pentax, I think, and I've written this on Pentax forums, so I'm not talking out of school here. Pentax is doing what I call a working man Leica strategy. You look at Leica's strategy, It's what is referred to in business circles as a blue ocean strategy.